My Little Pony, a happy, colorful show about the friendship of six friends and their fun and wacky adventures in the land of Equestria, and that's without mentioning the cute and charming characters and creatures that we saw in the show. Oh, oh no. Oh god, what is that? What is this? Okay, so despite My Little Pony being a kids show, surprisingly it had a lot, and I do mean a lot, of scary, creepy, and at times disturbing moments, characters, and even fates. But what are the darkest ones? Well, let's find out. But first, let's go over some honorable mentions. These were fates that, while unfortunate, I can't say that they were the darkest ones, beginning with Sombra in Reflections is a tragic one as he got screwed over in the name of love. He went from being the king and protector of his Equestria to the villain, and not to mention that Celestia lost the only true love she ever had. This fate, while sad, it's not the worst that we'll see in this video. Same thing with Now, depending on how you see it, this moment is either really dark or it isn't. Because on the one hand, we see Twilight killing conscious and living copies of her friend Pinkie Pie, but in the other hand, they were only that. Copies. It's not like she actually killed the original Pinkie Pie, right? Next we have Cosmo, and this one is here because it's more sad than dark. Cosmo was someone that got screwed over by Discord, and because of her obsession with him, led her in a bad path. And Discord didn't help, as instead of apologizing or trying to help her, he just deflected the blame and told us that Cosmo was at fault for being the way that she was. This, plus the fact that Discord betrayed her trust and that he banished her to the moon, made Cosmo's fate both sad and dark. And finally we have the Legion of Doom. Yes, you heard that right, the Legion of Doom, often considered by many to be one of the darkest fates in all G4, except for me. Sure, as horrifying as being petrified in stone is, 1. The Legion of Doom wasn't petrified for long, as seen in the comics. 2. They weren't entirely petrified, as we know that they were fully conscious while being in stone and that they were more immobilized. And 3. There was someone who wasn't that lucky, this one being the Storm King. Had a fate very similar to the Legion of Doom, and while not being as popular as the Legion's fate, I think the Storm King had it worst, because he got shattered. Discord said that when he was in stone he could hear, think and feel everything around him, which means that when the Storm King got shattered, he felt everything, his torso shattering, his arms and legs getting ripped out, and him being decapitated. And what makes this fate a little bit more disturbing is that we don't know if he ever got brought back, or if he remained a conscious living statue forever. But if you think that this is bad, the next fate was not only unfortunate, but also very cruel and hypocritical for the pony who did it, this one being Twilight is often regarded as the good, smart and caring pony that sees the good on everyone, no matter what they have done. Which makes this moment incredibly hypocritical, especially when this comic came out. Issue 25 came out on 2016. At this point, villains like Luna, Discord and Starlight were already reformed, villains that terrorized, destroyed and enslaved other ponies. So what did these three do? Well, these three stole Rainbow Dash's wings, so they could become alicorns. So that's it, right? They were evil and deserved this punishment. Well, yes and no. Yes, what they did wasn't right, but the reason why they did it is kinda sad. You see, these three thought that Twilight became an alicorn because she stole this power. So they thought if they could transfer this power to them, they could become alicorns, which, of course, we now know that that's not how alicorn powers work. But what made this moment so sad is that the only thing that these three wanted is to have freedom and to be treated right. And in a lot of ways, they reminded me of Starlight, someone who did something very similar, and thanks to Twilight, she turned a new leaf. So for Twilight to say that these three were misusing their magic and not to even give them the option for redemption and leaving them powerless forever, makes this one of the most hypocritical and unfortunate fates in the comics. And it wasn't the only one, because we also had Now, it might come as a surprise to put something related to G5 in this video, but surprisingly G5 had some pretty dark and at times scary moments. But this moment takes the cake as one of the most shocking ones. Lightning Rod was a unicorn that gave the main 5 information about Discord, and in doing so we also learned how he destroyed his life. You see, Lightning Rod was the lighthouse keeper for a town called Candlebright Cove, a bustling city that has ships and tourists every day. This was until the town grew more and more modern, to the point that Lightning Rod became obsolete to the town, and with this he was left without a job. This was until he found Discord's magic mirror, with Discord telling him that if he freed him, he would make sure the town always needed him. And with this, Lightning Rod used his powers to free Discord. What he didn't know is that this ended up breaking his horn, and the town that he cares so much about disappeared. This moment is one that is dark not only because of what happened, but also because we saw a version of Discord that we never saw before. One that instead of being a random funny character, he became a calculating, evil monster that would do anything to get his way, no matter who or what got in his way. And if you think this moment is dark, well, what if it wasn't just a specific moment, but rather a whole pony's life? The Thracians were a sub-race on Equestria. They were a totalitarian regime led by King tthis, a bitter, selfish and power-hungry leader that would brainwash or sometimes force his subjects to comply. And what makes this fate incredibly dark is how the life in this kingdom is, as instead of being born in a loving family and town, Thracians are born in a treacherous island in the outside of Equestria. All are children of their king, and from a young age their whole futures are decided. If they feel strong and obedient, they'll become soldiers, which is the best life a Thracian could wish for. But if instead they feel rebellious, they'll be considered traitors, and they'll be assigned to slavery for the rest of their lives. No one helps anyone in this society, everyone looks for themselves, and your only way out is either as a spy or to try and swim to shore, something that no other pony has done. I think I don't need to explain why this entry is here. For My Little Pony standards, this concept and story is incredibly dark, but interesting at the same time. And this concept is just as interesting as our Thracian protagonist in this story. Sweetfoot was a pony that had a fascinating arc, as she went from a loyal subject and daughter for tthis to someone that realized that friendship can be a good thing and not a weakness. And the ones that helped her realize this were the young six, showing the fans that maybe the school friendship and them weren't useless after all. And let's not forget that Sweetfoot is the only antagonist that redeemed herself. And who knows what her story would have been if the comic wasn't cancelled. And while all the fates in this video have been shocking, unfortunate or disturbing, there's one that takes the cake as possibly the darkest fate in all My Little Pony. This one is... Okay, this might come as a surprise because it's G5, and maybe for many this might not be the darkest fate. But before we get to that, let's begin with who is Opaline in the first place. Opaline was the villain of Make Your Mark, and as a villain she was really underwhelming, as instead of being a powerful, manipulative or even a funny villain, instead she was a pretty annoying and disappointing villain, and when her best version is one with moments like this.
私サニー思うんだけど、すべてのポニーが魔法を持つべきよね。私友達がとっても多いの。
That says a lot for how things were on Make Your Mark, but even with all of that, that doesn't mean that she didn't do some messed up things, because she did, which made this fate even more deserved, especially if you were a Misty or Sparky fan. Shout out to all my Sparky fans because I know that you exist. But okay, what makes this fate so dark? Well, the implications of what happened to Opaline. For what we saw, the tree not only removed her cutie mark, which in and of itself is pretty bad, but also trapped her inside of it. That's what we saw, and from there is all to the imagination of the viewer. And how I saw it, I think that Opaline not only is forever trapped inside the tree, but also the tree is feeding off of Opaline's magical energy and her. which could be a possibility, but even if she's just trapped in the tree forever, that's still a very dark and disturbing fate for a villain that wasn't that much of a threat. But hey, maybe this is all me, so what do you guys think? Do you think that there are worse fates in My Little Pony, and what's the fate that scared you the most? Leave it down in the comments. And remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing for more MLP videos like this one. And remember to take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video.